So let's talk about Oliveira versus Holloway, and that made me look kind of dumb. Although, I think in a BMF fight, you're always thinking about the striking. You're not thinking the fight's going to go to the ground. But Charles Oliveira obviously has magnificent BJJ, and he utilized that for all 25 minutes of this fight. And, it's one of those fights that reminds me why I've been watching more boxing and less UFC. And I'm just tired of these grappling fights where obviously even fights like this that are set up to be great striking matchups that just end up being 25 minutes of grappling. It's not what anybody wanted. It's not what anybody signed up for. But hey, it's how Charles Oliveira had to get a win. I said in my preview that I didn't see any way for Charles Oliveira to get a win in this fight. Well, I was just being dumb. I forgot about the BJJ. And he just dominated with the takedowns. He dominated from top position. Holloway was not getting him off. Holloway was not getting him off. And I don't even think it was a matter of Holloway didn't train for BJJ. I mean, I honestly don't think he did. I don't think that was Holloway's focus in camp. And I think that was a big part of the problem for Holloway in this fight, was that he was anticipating at least a little stand-up. But he had no answer to the grappling of Oliveira. He had no way to get back up to his feet at any point in this fight. Part of it's how large Oliveira was, just able to sink his body weight down on Max. And the long arms being able to control Max's limbs for pretty much the entire duration. And Max had extremely sparing opportunities to even strike in this fight. And, in one of the only exchanges we saw at the end of the fight where they gave us a little swang and bang on the feet, it was Oliveira that won those exchanges, much to my non-surprise at that point. I expected Oliveira to kind of whoop Holloway on the feet there at the end of the fight after, all the tiring out of Holloway that Oliveira had done over the last 25 minutes of the fight. I wouldn't expect Holloway to get up to the fight and start piecing up Oliveira and knock him out and drop him like Gaethje. And, as always, I'm of two minds on fights like this, really. Obviously, plenty of people are going to be mad that there wasn't striking because it's a BMF fight. It's Holloway versus Oliveira. You expect a striking fight, but like I said in my preview, there was no way into Oliveira. If this whole fight stayed on the feet, Oliveira couldn't have won because Holloway is going to dominate on the inside, and it's about even on the outside. I don't think Oliveira would have had any way to stop Holloway from consistently getting into the inside and landing being effective with his boxing. And so I think from that perspective, Oliveira just had to stop him from getting close. And in those moments when Holloway did try to get close on the feet, those were the exact moments when Oliveira was able to initiate those takedowns. And the second that Holloway would get into what should be his most dominant position, which is in close on the feet, he would be down on the ground in his most vulnerable position. So honestly, in hindsight, I think this fight probably was always going to go to Oliveira, with the caveat that Oliveira was always going to wrestle and did not want to have a BMF-style fight. And I think people are going to be mad that this wasn't a BMF-style fight. And obviously the next BMF title fight is going to be Topuria versus Oliveira too. And it's unfortunate that the only way that fight ends up well is if Oliveira does to Topuria what he did in this fight. I think that the odds of that are a lot lower because of Topuria's one-shot power. I think that part of why Oliveira initiated this game plan, and I think he had this game plan in mind from well before this fight. The whole training camp, I think Oliveira was probably planning on wrestling in this fight. Like I said, Holloway is going to be very effective on the inside if he can get inside. But the way for Holloway to actually dominate a fight and win a fight is that he has to consistently be allowed to do that, right? It kind of does have to be a stand-up fight for us to get the BMF Max Holloway kind of fight that we all thought we were going to get. And Oliveira never had any plans on letting that happen. But the truth is, I think that the second Topuria fight is going to end just like the first one. I do actually think that Topuria is going to be a little harder to grapple for Oliveira if there is any grappling in that fight, given that Topuria is a little smaller, more compact, stronger. I think that the long limbs of Holloway really benefited Oliveira in this fight, allowing him to control the grappling. But Oliveira's BJJ is so good that I do wonder if he can go on something of a dominant run with that BJJ. It would take a lot to beat Topuria, but the fact of the matter is that if he does beat Topuria, about 23 minutes of that fight are just going to be him in top control, the same thing we saw in this Holloway fight. So the truth is, in Oliveira versus Topuria 2, there's either not going to be a scorecard, it's going to be another KO1, or it's going to be a 50-45 for Oliveira, clearly. I just actually don't believe in Oliveira's control wrestling against Topuria in the same way. But the truth is, I'm not concerned for Max Holloway. I'll be curious to see what fight they come up with next for him. But I'm not worried about his career. He's still the BMF to me. I would have loved to see a stand and trade fight here, but I don't think Oliveira wanted to get knocked out again. So we got the fight that we got. Let me know if you guys are disappointed in the main event of UFC 326. Let me know if you guys are excited for Oliveira versus Topuria too, if he has a shot in this second fight, or if you would have rather seen a Holloway rematch. I honestly think that Topuria just beats both of them even still. But Oliveira fought an almost perfect fight, so I'm not quite ready to jump on the Max Holloway being faded or starting to fade hype train. I think it's just something that can always happen to a striker in the UFC. I think it just proves that no matter how high level of a striker you are in the UFC, there's just going to be a wrestler waiting around the corner to make your life hell. So yeah, that's a big part of why in the last couple of years, from my fight fan experience at least, it's been a lot more boxing and a lot less UFC. But yeah, like and subscribe for more fight content. I'll keep coming with all the boxing content, all the MMA content regardless. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.